What's up, everybody? What's poppin'? How is it going? This is my first time doing StreamYard, so let me see. Am I live? Yes, I am. Dope. All right. StreamYard, so let me see. All right, so I'm waiting on the big dog. The big dog to come. Look at this pillow. All right. Let's BFTB boxing. See, I've never used StreamYard before, so I've been on it, but I've never used it. So let's see what poppins, what goes on once everybody comes on. Facebook, yeah. Nobody's watching just yet. So I think, oh, it would tell me, huh? It wouldn't tell me if anybody's watching on Instagram, but would it? No, it wouldn't. Captain Chaos is watching. Okay, I can see that. What's up, Ed? Waiting to see who else is coming. I'm gonna do, how do I do this? I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna do it like this. That's better. Or is it better to be bigger? I don't even know. I'm gonna play around with it. I'm unaware how to use this shit. Okay. So let's see what's popping. And if this doesn't work, then I might have to use good old Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Just use good old Instagram. Simple. Waiting for BFT Boxing to join us. Where's he at? I don't know. But he's on his way. What's up, Isaiah Felix? What's going on? Waiting for BFT Boxing to join us. There he is. Let's get him in here. Jerzy's, what's up?
What's poppin', homie? Marco the King, what's up with you, bro?
Chillin'. So, well, I know it's BFTB, but what do people call you?
They just call me BF for the most part.
We'll do that. BF. Yeah. Straight out of Jersey.
Jersey, homie.
What part?
Atlantic City.
Oh, okay. I was expecting something closer, but
yeah, you expect like Newark.
Something, something within an hour from here. But you know. So man, thanks for joining me, man. For those watching who don't know you, you have a very successful, interesting platform of your own. You cover all things boxing, right?
I do. Definitely do.
What got you? Well, first of all, let's do it this way. Were you ever an actual boxer?
No. It's something that I wanted to do, you know what I'm saying? But then life happened. It sort of took me away from it. But it's always been my passion, right? So no, I was never an actual boxer.
Okay. So what got you into, well, let's start this. First of all, how long have you had your platform?
2016.
Oh.
Yeah, 2016. But I wasn't active, right? I wasn't active. I got active, I want to say 2017, 2018 was when I really got active. Before that, I wasn't active.
Okay. And what got you, were you always a big boxing fan? Like what got you in this direction?
So it was my favorite boxer of all time was Thomas Hitman Hearns, right? But it was yeah, I know, I saw it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did, yeah.
Thanks.
It was the Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas the Hitman Hearns fight. That was the one. When I was a young.
So you must
and from that point on, I was stuck. I was like super young.
You must have been a little disappointed with the outcome then.
Just a smidge, but it didn't stop. See, that's the thing about me though, right? I've never been a person that relies on the outcomes of a fight, right? Never is outcomes is never my thing. Like it's always been, that's my name, best fight the best. It's never been best outcomes of the best. I just want the best guys to fight. Somebody's gonna win, somebody's gonna lose. That's not the relevance of my passion to the sport of boxing.
You know, on another note, people for some reason don't remember, but in that second fight, Hearns beat the shit out of Ray Leonard. I thought it was a draw, I think, right?
Yeah, oh my God, he put hands on him. He put hands on him bad.
He whooped his ass. Yeah.
But he got hands put on him too, but he still put hands on him. I like to focus on the second one versus the first.
No, I mean, you know, the second one, you know, it was people for some reason don't talk about that one. They focus more on the first one. Maybe because was Hearns favored to win that? I don't really remember.
The second one, I want to say I know the first one, Leonard was favored to win the first one. I want to say the second one he was favored because if I'm not mistaken, Leonard had lost already. You know, he had lost. I'm pretty sure he lost to the Duran fight, got the Duran back. And I want to say they fought at middleweight, the second one. I don't think the first one was at welterweight. And then I want to say the second one was at middleweight.
Was it?
And I want to say that. Yeah, I want to say it was at middleweight. I think it was at middleweight.
The third one might have been heavy.
I think the third one was at middleweight.
Oh, okay.
I need to go look back at one. I know one of them was at middleweight, and that's the one they really don't talk about that much.
So when I think of Atlantic City, I think of Bruce Seldon.
Bruce Seldon. Most people, when they think of Atlantic City, they think of the fights that Mike Tyson had there. That's what they think about. That was pretty much his city. You know, he had most of his fights in the 80s and shit. You know, and I was like 4. He had his fight there, so it was like, you know, those are the ones right there, like him and fighting in the arena. You know, and with him and Donald Trump and everybody like that. That was that. When people think Atlantic City, that's what they think about for the most part. Like Bruce Seldon is more like an underscore type of guy. And there was another guy too. He fought Shannon Briggs. I forget his name.
Ooh, Briggs is my boy. Briggs is my boy.
Yeah, he actually beat Shannon Briggs too.
From Atlantic City?
He was from Atlantic City, Pleasantville area.
If anybody in the comments knows who he's talking about, I can't think of it.
Yeah, he beat. His name was Big Daryl. It was Daryl something. Daryl something, because I knew his family. Like I was cool with his family.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Little D was his son. Big Daryl fought Shannon Briggs. It was Daryl that beat Daryl. I got it. Oh, it's gonna eat at me until I find. But I'll
I'll look it up after anyway. But yeah, I'm curious who that was. So you started your platform, and when you started, what was it like? How it is now, or what was it like when you first started?
Oh no. When I first started, most people that I've ran into, like most people at that particular time when I started, because it was like towards the tail end of the Mayweather era, you know, when it was a lot of negativity around that. So for the most part, that's what I was dealing with, right? For the most part. But I seen that there was an avenue, because unlike this, like I could talk boxing all day, especially with someone that's educated about this as you are, someone that's been in the gym, someone that's talked to all these people and knows these people personally. Bro, I would sit here and fanboy with you all day long. I would, man. I would fanboy with you all day.
We could do it. Go ahead.
But, you know, at the particular time when I got into it, you know, right, I am an extremely blunt person, right? Extremely blunt. I only know one way. I'm going to tell you the truth, and that's all I'm going to tell you. Sometimes the truth doesn't like you, right? It doesn't like you, but it is what it is. So I sort of came to this realization that there's a lot of guys that will say things as if they know things. They'll type them, but they won't speak them. So my thing that I see, and I saw a lot of places. So my things is that I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk to me then. We're gonna have a conversation, and it's not like this one, because I'm a fanboy. I'm a fanboy of boxing. Like I will fanboy all day. Like if I'm speaking to someone on your level, whole different story. But when I'm speaking to them, they're not on my level. at all, right? So when I'm speaking to you, I would never think, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. But I would never get, but that's what they did to me. And I noticed that there is that was an opening that nobody was taking. For the most part, what they would do is they would say, oh, well, you don't agree or you don't want to do this, so I'm kicking you out of here. Or you don't agree or you don't want to do this, so we're not talking anymore. Or now I got to speak to you like a gentleman, or I got to speak to this way. No, that's not me. I am me on and off the net. So what you give me, I'm going to give it back to you. The problem is it's my page, so I'm going to give it to you worse. That's the problem, right? And that niche, right, that nobody was doing. Now you see, if you go around the internet, you'll see a lot of people doing that. A lot of people.
I do actually. Yeah.
It's sort of like how can I call it? You know how battle rap, how it's a battle rap? I think that's it right there. That's it. Like I started this. I started this.
It's aggressive, but it's all love.
Yeah, all love. Yeah. As long as we're on boxing, we're good. As long as we're on boxing. If we're not on boxing, but then we're on something else, I'm not gonna go nowhere. I'm just gonna give you what you're giving me, and it's not gonna go in your favor at all.
So you get a lot of backlash.
Oh gosh, what? Look at your comments. Getting backlash right now, man.
Oh yeah, I didn't look over. I'm looking over right now. Yeah.
They know who I am. They know what I do.
You know Drew, right, Titan?
Yes, I do.
So he gets a similar kind of thing going on.
Yeah, but see, Drew similar to me, but not me, right?
No.
So Drew's got his own thing, and he has a little bit of some of the things bleed off that I do. It's a natural, right? If I'm dealing with you all the time, some of the things that you are, and you know what you have done, you know the again, I'm a fanboy because I've watched everything you've done. You know what I'm saying? So some of the things that you do, right, it's going to bleed off on me. And I have no problem. I have no problem doing that. I love boxing, right? And anything that's pushing it forward, I'm with it, right? And I see that you do that all the time. I just saw your thing with Lennox Lewis, man. I see that. So it's like I'm going to enjoy that. So I'm going to see that, and it's going to bleed off onto me, and I'm going to use it.
Okay.
And that's what other people do, right? So I'm not. This is no downing anybody. I'm just saying when I started what I do, nobody was doing what I do. So now people sort of. It just because they're around me, that's my homie, that's my family. I could call Drew right now, right? So it's a natural thing. Some of the stuff that he does, I incorporate. Some of the stuff that I do, he incorporates. So it's just that.
You guys are cool though, right?
That's my homie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I'm cool with Drew. Okay. So your page, when you go on, you know, I looked at your videos, but I'd like you to kind of describe it. How would you describe your page? What kind of content do you put out?
All facts, and my opinions are based on facts. That is in a nutshell, right? I'm gonna give you, if I'm telling you this is a sweet tea, it's a sweet tea. I'm going to show you it's a sweet tea, right? And that question that you asked me is a really, really good question. Man. It's a really good question because again, what I do, not a lot of people will do, right? They'll just say, this is what it is. Take my word for it. That's the end of the discussion, right? Me, on the other hand, I'm so aggressive with my stance that I can't do that, right? I'm telling you, I'm drinking sweet tea and you disagree with me. Now I got to show you. Now I gotta prove you this is sweet tea, right? I gotta like my thing is I can't lose, man. I can't lose, man. We got to debate, man. We got to debate. I can't lose, man. I can't. It's just not in me. And I will tell you this. Right? Yeah, I'm extremely competitive. I will tell you this. I've never lost a debate. I've never lost a debate, man. I've never lost one. I've never lost one. There's people in this comments right now that watch me all the time, and they will tell you I've never lost one because I deal with facts.
So are you saying that on your platform you kind of welcome the debates? You prefer to have these debates?
Absolutely. Okay. I'm there to give to speak on a topic of boxing, something that for one part, what I do is I think outside the box on a lot of things, right? There's so many guys, people like yourself, right? that are in the sport of boxing who have boxed, right? So your mindset is that of a boxer. You're in that mindset. And one of the things I will say is a lot of boxers will say the business of boxing, right? They'll say that, but not a lot of boxers actually know the business of boxing. Not a lot do. They'll say that, but they don't know that. Because if you ask them, what's the business? Then all of a sudden the conversation is, well, that's behind closed doors. Well, why would you say, and this is not to get on anybody, but I'm just saying this is where my mind is at with these type of things. Why would you put that in the ether? You don't know because of the business of boxing. Why would you put that in the ether if you're not willing to explain the business of boxing?
Oh, so you're talking about like kind of an argument point, like, it's the business, you don't get it. And then you ask them, well, what is that? And then they don't want to talk about it.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So let me ask you this, kind of going off the topic, but not really. Who are your top 5 great all-time fighters? They don't have to be in order. Top 5.
Okay. Top 5 great all-time fighters. Sugar Ray Robinson, of course. I would definitely have to go. Man, this is good. I was going to say Sonny Liston, but he's a little too dirty. But definitely Sugar Ray Robinson. That was my number 1 without question.
Okay.
Of course, Thomas the Hitman.
Okay.
100% Thomas the Hitman. I think a fighter that doesn't get his just due, right? Just due is Lennox Lewis.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Now are we speaking all time or just
all time? You could go back to Jack Johnson if you want, whatever you want to do.
So there is so many. There's levels to this one, man. Because
this one is tough because when you look at Jack Johnson, right? And I want you to get back to your list, but you look at Jack Johnson for his time, one of the greatest fighters ever.
Period.
But somebody like, I don't know, Shannon Briggs probably would have beat the shit out of him if they fought.
He would have knocked him unconscious.
Yeah.
Could be. But again, even still, like Shannon Briggs has more first round knockouts than I think anybody in history.
Does he?
I think he has more first round knockouts than anybody in history.
I'm gonna tell him that.
Yeah.
So why I brought that up is when you consider it, try to consider the fighter for their time.
That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, we can't mix eras because of the evolution.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna have to go. What I'll do is I'll go from Ali and back. That's what I'll do. I'll go from Ali and back. Sugar Ray Robinson, without question, number 1. Dang, I don't even want to put Ali in. It's so cliche. Man, it's so cliche because everybody's got Ali in there, right? Everybody's got that.
I don't.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm definitely going Sugar Ray Robinson. I'm going to go the Coco Kid.
Who's the Coco Kid?
Black Murderers Row.
I don't even know who that is. Who is that?
You know the Black Murderers Row?
A fighter?
The Black Murderers Row. It was like 6 fighters in the Black Murderers Row.
Oh, yeah. And he was one of them.
Coco Kid was one of them.
Oh, okay.
Man. Archie Moore.
Good one.
I don't like the fact that, although he had well over 150 fights, I didn't like the fact of how he went out with Rocky Marciano. I really didn't like that. Because it was towards the end of his career, him coming off of multiple fights, but he still fought everybody, and he fought in multiple weight classes.
Right.
Man. Carlos Monzon.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think Marvelous Marvin Hagler overshadows Monzon so much that Monzon doesn't really get the just due that he deserves, right? Mm-hmm. He gets overshadowed. Man, one more. That's such a
so far you haven't put in my favorite fighter of all time.
I'm gonna say the last one I'll say is Joe Louis.
Okay. So that's not my favorite, but Joe Louis. So here's my list. Number 1, Roy Jones Jr., hands down. for me.
Okay.
The skill that man had, you know, people say, oh, he got knocked out, blah, blah, blah. You know, he dominated for 15 years. He started boxing at 9 years old. So by the time he's 35, 36, that's a lot of mileage. That's a lot of mileage, you know, with hundreds of amateur fights. And what he did, I always say the eyeball test. Have you seen anybody with that kind of speed and power? Anybody?
No.
You know,
Freakish.
Like some kind of a manufactured factory robot for boxing.
Yes.
So I put Roy 1, Joe Louis. I mean, 13 years almost without losing. That's fucking insane. Insane. Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson.
Especially in that era.
Mm-hmm. Sugar Ray Robinson. I would put Jack Johnson for that era because he was just, I mean, he was toying with people. Like, I've never seen a fighter do that with every person he fought.
Yeah. And
then, you know, the fifth one is tough. You know, it's hard for me to pick the fifth one because you got guys like Sweet Pea. You got guys like Julio Cesar Chavez, Willie Pep.
Yep.
Man, the last one is tough. Hagler. I don't know if I could pick one of all those, but those first four to me, you know, Sugar Ray Robinson was 128 and 1 at one point. His only loss was to Lamada, who he beat 5 times. You know what I mean? Joe Louis, you know, obviously didn't lose for almost 13 years.
Longest winning streak as a heavyweight.
I do find
25 defenses, something like that.
Was it?
Yeah, I think it was like 25 defenses.
I do find Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali to be a little overrated. Now, let me explain. Ali overrated as a fighter, not as a human being, not as what he did for
right.
As a fighter. And Mike Tyson I found to be overrated because after he lost to Buster Douglas, can you name one mega fight Mike Tyson won? Because I can't.
No. He flat-footed, too flat-footed after that. Matter of fact, flat-footed before that. I think his downfall was cuss.
Well, and if you know, I trained under Kevin Rooney, so I mean that's the first style I learned. And you know, there was a huge difference, like you're saying, from right around when he left Kevin to afterwards in terms of, you know, his movement and everything.
Yes.
But the thing with him was, in his prime, which was only about 4 years, he was some of the most explosive shit anybody's ever seen.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I still think Tua would have got him, but I'm listening.
Do you really?
I do.
You know why I don't think so? I think he fought. Remember when he fought Tony Tubbs, Tyson?
Yep.
Short, chubby guy, fast, and he gave him some problems. But Tua only really the left was all he had, right? Or am I remembering wrong?
Yeah, he had power in both hands, but that left was the one.
Kind of like
he had a chin.
Yeah. So those are my favorite. There's a lot. So let me ask you this. I would follow it up. Who are your current top 5?
That's the one I wanted. That's the one. Deontay Wilder, Errol Spence, Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson. But that was 4. Jerron Boots Ennis.
You got Boots up there already?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I'm on board with you. I think Boots is going to beat all of them in another year.
I think the problem that Boots is going to have. Well, I'm not going to. Let me reword that. The problem that fighters are going to have is the same problem they're going to have with Devin Haney. You must fight that man now, or you are not going to beat him. Fight him now. Put him on your belt now. Get his name on your resume now. That way you don't got to fight him again. If you wait, the longer you wait, all these guys are older than him. I love Errol Spence. Love him to death. It's man down over here, right? But I'm also a realist. And Father Time is completely undefeated. So the longer you wait, Jerron Boots Ennis is 23 years old. Errol Spence is 31.
Yeah.
The longer you wait, like just you try to wait him, everybody is getting older at the same time. Right? Yeah. So if you don't get this now, this man who's 23 is going to fight you when you're 36, 35. Still going to be a tough fight, but it's going to be, it's the longer you wait, the harder it's getting. Same thing I said about Tank and Lomachenko. I think Tank annihilates him right now. But years ago, 2018, all Lomachenko. And I said the longer you wait, because now Father Time is undefeated. Look what happened with Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah.
Bro, he shouldn't have lost to Teofimo Lopez. No way. But Father Time had his feet stuck.
Do you believe? Oh, right, when Teofimo beat him. But do you believe that his shoulder played a part in him losing?
Absolutely 100% not. Absolutely 100% not. Because before the fight, you were saying that you were in the best shape of your life. Now, I understand all fighters say that to a certain degree.
Right.
However, don't tell me, like I say, I'm blunt. I'm very blunt. I'm a realist. Don't tell me you're in the best shape of your life before the fight. Nobody asked you. Honestly, nobody asked. Nobody asked, hey, how are you? What shape are you in for this fight? No one asked. He literally told the people, hey, look, in other fights, I've been having issues, blah, blah, blah. But in this one, I'm coming in the best shape of my life. He's in trouble. That's what Lomachenko says. So how are you going to say after the fight, now I got a shoulder injury? Stop the cap. It's the same thing I say about Pacquiao.
Do you believe that Teofimo might have lost to Kambosos because of the whole lung thing? I guess not.
No. How do you have a lung problem and before the fight you're smoking hookah? How do you have a lung problem? Stop it, dude. You went in there. I think if Teofimo Lopez would have took this guy serious, I think if it would have took him serious, he would have destroyed him. He did not take him serious, and that's why he lost. Nothing more, nothing less.
Somebody here asked me why Ali was overrated, and I kind of want to address that. Why I think he was overrated. Only overrated because people all put him number one, greatest of all time, right? I think a lot of other fighters have a much better resume than he did. Not resume in terms of he fought all the great fighters, but way more fights. You know what I mean? Don't forget 3 of his prime years, he was not active because of the whole draft. Right. And he took a lot of punishment. The Ali who fought Cleveland Williams. Now that Ali, maybe.
Savage.
Maybe, right. But the one that we really knew way more of, the one who rope-a-doped, and, a lot of other fighters I thought were hit harder, were faster, maybe not smarter, but definitely took less punishment. And Ali lost a bunch of time. I mean, honestly, you could argue he lost every fight to Ken Norton. You could argue that.
Yeah.
So that's why I think he's a little overrated in terms of being the greatest. He's definitely amongst the greatest heavyweights, but I don't know about the greatest of all time. But okay, so
I think that's more of a self-determination, a self-proclamation, and that's the reason why it just stuck. Sort of like Floyd Mayweather saying TBE, the greatest, the best ever, right? If Floyd didn't say the best ever, if he said something else, everybody would if he just said money, people would just call him money. If we call him the best ever, some type of term that he just put on himself, then everybody just follows along suit. Like that.
I tell people, Pretty Boy Floyd was a fucking monster.
Savage. Absolutely savage.
But Money was way less risky, less of a risk taker, slower pace. But it's like his mouth went on overdrive, but his skills kind of chilled back a little bit.
Money was more. I would truly say that Money Mayweather's ring IQ was better than Pretty Boy's ring IQ. I would say that, and I would say because Money Mayweather knew that the least amount of punishment I take, the more longevity I have. Pretty Boy was a knockout artist. If people remember, Pretty Boy was the most. There was articles out that Pretty Boy Floyd Mayweather was one of the most duck fighters in boxing because he was a knockout artist.
So right? I was talking to somebody, and somebody who didn't know boxing that well wanted to see some good fights. And the 3 fights that come to mind when I think of complete ass whooping, but a beautiful ass whooping. First one is Roy Jones versus Vinny Pazienza.
Yeah.
Second one is Floyd versus Arturo Gatti.
Yes.
And the third one might be Floyd versus Corrales.
I have the second one. I definitely have the second one. But me, myself, I have Ika Ibuchi and Tua, right? I have that fight.
Well, that wasn't an ass whooping. That was pretty even, wasn't it?
That was a war.
Yeah. I'm talking about one-sided ass whoopings that displayed unbelievable skill.
One-sided ass whoopings that displayed unbelievable skill, I would say.
Those were the 3 that I just named, in my opinion.
Okay, so one-sided that displayed unbelievable skill. Roy Jones versus, I wouldn't even say Panziaza. I wouldn't say that.
Who would you say?
I would say Roy Jones versus Virgil Hill.
I think he beat Vinny worse. You know, he ended up knocking him out in crazy fashion, Virgil Hill. But I
But
interviewed Virgil Hill too, actually.
yeah, Virgil hit, but reason why I would say more one sided because Virgil's chin was savage, right? And Roy was catching him with everything in the book, but he wasn't knocking him out. But Virgil wasn't doing anything. It was just all one sided for Roy. And then when he stepped back and did that shot to the liver, man, people they underestimate his power, but that's a whole different story. But I would put Virgil up because, in my opinion, Vinny Panziano, he was never on Floyd's level. I think that was more of a fight due to the times of more so racially charged, more like a Clooney Holmes type thing, or a Mike Tyson versus McNeely type thing.
Did you know that Cooney? I interviewed Cooney. That you probably do know this because you seem like a very well-schooled boxing guy. But Cooney had Ronald Reagan put a phone in Cooney's dressing room to call him.
Direct call.
That's racist shit.
When he won, a direct call.
Crazy racist shit.
Direct call.
I heard them, and then I talked to Cooney about it. It's really funny because I asked Cooney, I'm like, "Is it true that you had a phone?" He goes, "Yeah, but it never rang." He just laughed.
But it was there for him when he won.
That's
like
crazy.
they also had snipers because it was an outside fight.
Oh,
they had snipers on the roof because Holmes was getting threatened by the Ku Klux Klan. They said, if you win, we're going to kill you.
Wow.
Yeah. So they had to put snipers on the roof to protect Holmes. There's a lot behind that. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of earlier Tyson fights that could be one-sided whooping. Like, I mean, Spinks was so short, it doesn't even count.
That's a whole different story, bro.
Yeah.
That's a whole different story, man. Because if you look at those guys, man, if you look at the guy, I have no disrespect to any of the old guys, none of those guys. But bro, those guys are not, those guys are not the ones, man. Those guys are not that. Listen, bro, those guys are not. Mike Tyson fought what? 6 times, 7 times, 8 times in 1 year in '86. And
once a month, not even more. He was doing once a month.
Come on, dude. Come on, bro. Those guys are not good. No. Those guys, man. I'll tell you what. Everybody he fought in that year, Deontay Wilder would knock out in 2 rounds or less.
You're a big Wilder fan?
Yes, I am.
He would
knock that man out in two rounds or less, all of them.
I talked to his brother today. I was on with
I was supposed to be there with Marcellus, man, but I didn't get the link with Smoke With Me TV.
Oh, you didn't get the link? Okay. Yeah,
I didn't get it.
Me and Smoke did it. So Wilder, I think Wilder, say what you want about him. Some people say, only one punch, a straight right, he's sloppy, wild, whatever. When you have 37 wins and 37 knockouts or whatever he ended up, you cannot ignore that. That is fucking unreal. Like, I put him number 1, probably hardest puncher of all time. You just can't ignore that.
And then Ernie Shapers.
And when people say, "Oh, it's just one right hand, he's lucky," and look, I'm not a huge Wilder fan. I don't not like him, but so I'm not just supporting him to support him. Is just how I really feel.
Yeah,
it's not lucky. You don't do it 40 fucking plus times. It's not lucky. Like, that's a skill. You know what I mean? So that annoys me when people try and take away from his skill, saying, "Oh, he just has one punch. What kind of fight? He doesn't have fundamentals." Well, it's like he achieved the goal, which is knocking everybody out. That's the goal, right?
I'll go even further. I'll tell you that Deontay Wilder having that right hand is probably the most skilled thing in the sport of boxing right now. Let me explain. If everybody knows what I'm going to do and you can't stop it, if everybody knows my right hand, it's my right hand. I have no other skill. That's what they say, which he does have skills, but whatever. I have no other skill. I just have a right hand. Then you can defend that right hand.
Yeah.
You can move out of the way of that right hand.
Yeah.
If all I have is one tool and they try to down him and discredit him, disrespect him and say you got one tool, so you got this one thing. You mean to tell me I have one thing and there's nothing you can do about that one thing?
Right. No, of course.
This tells me one of 2 things. Either you are garbage or my one thing is the best thing in boxing.
Yeah, you can't, you know, 40 plus wins would not be, that's not a coincidence. That's not luck. It's skill. And, you know, I like Deontay a lot, and I liked him a lot after he lost. And I know that a lot of people believe that there was a lot of cheating and going on and stuff, and there's a reason for it. But what turned me off a little bit was how he handled the losses, especially the third fight where he didn't want to give him any props after it and all that. And I understand the other side of it. Like, okay, he had a lot of, you know, if you felt like you were cheated on and lied to and all that stuff, I get it. But I felt like it was a bad example for up and coming fighters and for people seeing that, like not giving the dap after the fight. You know what I mean? He could have went and hit him up personally and told him how he felt. But so that's the one thing
he did. He ended up doing it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he went on Twitter or whatever it was the next day. Yeah, so that's the one thing I didn't like about him. But you know, I liked him. I do like him. You know, and hopefully it'll be a successful comeback. We'll see what happens.
Well, and I can understand your take, right? You are a former fighter. You know, you're in that realm, right? You're in that realm, so you deal with all these guys. So you know that after a fight or whatever the case may be, there's going to be some camaraderie amongst enemies, right? There's going to be that we went to war, great war, we go our separate ways, right? There's going to be that. But then you also have to take into account the other side, right? Take into account the other side. The other side where if I know you cheated me, even if some people believe it didn't happen.
Right.
If I believe it happened, if I know you did, well, you broke that honor amongst competitors, right? So I'm not going to be so inclined to thank you and to be grateful for the great fight that we put on, which I believe Wilder Fury 3 was probably the greatest heavyweight fight I've ever seen, in my opinion. I believe it's probably one of it's top 5, one of the greatest.
It was very exciting, yeah.
For all of Wilder's fights are exciting. Yeah. He's never been in a boring fight, not one. They're all exciting,
right?
But I can like, and I think this is where a lot of people, especially people like yourself, right? You're in there. That you don't get into the nuances and the weeds, so to speak. Your thing is, I see them all, right? I see these guys. I deal with these guys. I am one of these fighters, right? I'm in this realm, and I know at the end of a war, we're going to go home. We're going to shake hands. We both fed our family. We both put in a great fight for the fans. If that's the case, I'd be with you. But me knowing what I know and seeing what I've seen, right? I understand where he is, and I actually give him big ups for even showing this man any type of respect at all, to be honest. Because if I were in his shoes, I tell you I'm blunt. Ain't no way I would have showed him respect. No way. Zero, bro. No way. No way. You know what you did, bro. You know. You can't tell me your gloves were on straight if your glove is flopping around. You're a fighter. You, as a fighter, you know that your gloves, that they wrap your wrists, they put your glove on, and then they wrap it again. So your glove is not going to be, you're not telling Ricky Hatton to pull your gloves up. Your gloves are not flopping around. So when you throw a punch, it looks like the Alien versus Predator and your hand is punching out the wrist. Right. Come on, bro. You come on, bro.
You know, I talked to Drew, told me a lot about it, you know, stuff that of course I didn't know. I didn't, you know, to me, the one thing I did see when they fought was, so for example, when Cotto fought Margarito, that to me seemed like a very blatant something was up, because Cotto was whooping him, and then Margarito started landing shots that didn't look that hard, yet his face was swelling up. Yeah. You know, but Wilder Fury, you know, Fury was still landing a lot of shots, and it looked like he really looked like he had his number, and he was just landing shots. Those shots have to land, and they land from skill. They don't land from luck. Now, let's say his gloves were fucked with. Okay, that's fucked up. He should have lost if that's the case. You know, he should have been disqualified. But the skill level to me looked like Fury just hit the styles. Fury style was just, you know, some styles don't match up. So
it just happens, bro. That just happens. If you look at Vernon Forrest, Shane Mosley, and Mayorga, right? Mayorga beats Vernon Forrest. Vernon Forrest beats Shane Mosley. Exactly. Shane Mosley beats Mayorga. Like bro, styles make fights, and they always will. Sometimes this guy has your number. If he has your number, he just has your number.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with a fighter having your number. And this is why it's another reason why I give Wilder so much credit, bro, so much respect, bro. And Shane Moses is one of my favorite fighters.
So do you agree? So you agree that Fury had his number or no?
What I've always said is that Tyson Fury, in my opinion, is the best standard boxer on earth because he's 6'9". I think if Tyson Fury was not 6'9", I think Luis Ortiz would beat him.
Yes, I agree. He uses his size. Yeah, of course.
It's just it's you're a heavyweight, so you can be 800 pounds if you want to, right?
Right.
Now, Deontay Wilder is a one of one, in my opinion. So you have the best standard boxer fighting a fighter who is a one of one.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the way I've always looked at it. So I never put them in the same thing. If Deontay Wilder touched him right at any time, he's going to sleep. And he clearly had a long count, right? So that's my opinion. He had a long count. Matter of fact, he had two, but whatever about that. I think the fact that and I've always said this, Anthony Joshua cannot beat Tyson Fury. Anthony Joshua cannot beat Deontay Wilder because Deontay Wilder will put him to sleep and Tyson Fury will embarrass him. I've always said, and I have videos about this going back, the fight is Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. I've been saying this since 2015. 15?
You were right.
15. That's always the fight, always, because Fury is he's a Tyson Fury, man. If it wasn't before I realized that, before I got into the cheating stuff, right? Before I got into that, and at first after the fight, my thing was Tyson Fury, you won, long live the king. That was my thing. And then everything started to come to me, man, what's up with this? What's up with this? What's up with this? I'm like, bro, what? And when all these 1 + 1 + 1 is adding up, I'm like, dude, come on, dude. Bro, if you're and this is what sort of gave me a nasty taste in my mouth for the guy. If I'm saying you're the best standard boxer in the world, why do you need to do this? Think about what he says. I dip my hands in gasoline 7 times a day to make my knuckles hard. What does that do? I mean, to remove the skin. I mean, to make sure that the skin between his knuckles is thin. Right?
Who said that?
Fury said that. Tyson Fury said, I put my hands in gasoline like 7 times a day. I put my hands in gasoline 7 times a day to thin the skin between my knuckles and my what would matter if you had padding on? It would only matter if the padding is not there, so you're punching more knuckle on skin.
Right.
That's the only time it would matter.
I'll tell you one thing. So the gloves were invented, I'm sure you know this, to protect the hands, not the face.
Yes.
Face shots, it's less concussive when there's no glove, when there's no padding. What that would do though is it'll create more injuries, more knots, more cuts, but it's actually less of a concussive shot. Yes, right. But it's not concussive. But look, either way, so you're basically saying that you think that Fury might have had his number, but he still cheated.
And he didn't have to. If he had if it was a Vernon Forrest, Mayorga, Shane Moses situation, bro, just if you go win fair and square, bro, let us celebrate you fair and square. In my opinion, he took away from us celebrating him with a fair and square win. There was just no reason for all that stuff, man. There was just no reason. And I could go on to this all day long, bro.
I know. I talked with Drew a little bit, and I'm like, oh, that was a mistake.
Yeah, there's a litany. I know how to pinch it off, right? There's a litany of things in direction that I can go in this, but that's not where I want to go.
But you know what? That's over, and he's, what's exciting to me is who do you think he's going to fight next?
Well, my opinion is that when he comes back, he's going to fight someone like Charles Martin. That's what I think.
Is he still fighting that guy?
Yeah, I would think that to me, that's Charles Martin is still with PBC. I don't see him going right into a fight with Andy Ruiz or Ortiz or something like that. Whoever wins that fight, which I think Ortiz is going to win.
Do you?
But Deontay he's such a guy. He don't want no tune-ups. I would want him to fight someone like a Charles Martin. That's what I would want. I think he's going to fight someone like an Otto Wallin. He's going to fight someone like that. Or
Wallin is a bad dude. Apparently,
I think he's a bad dude. I think he can fight.
So here's the $1 million question: Spence or Crawford?
Errol Spence. Errol Spence.
You think easy?
Errol Spence is going. Listen, man. People, and I'll say this, and I did this video just yesterday, or day before yesterday. They say, and I was one. I was a huge Terrence Crawford fan. I still am a fan, but I just don't think he beats. I don't think he beats EJ. Terrence Crawford can do it all, right? Yeah. Box on the back foot, box on the inside, box from range, box from everything. He can do it all. He can move around, blah, 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 yada, yada. They say most people will say that Terrence Crawford has more skills than Errol Spence. He's too skilled, right? And they'll start to favor Errol Spence, right? I mean, they say he's too skilled, but what they say is, I think that Terrence Crawford's going to win, but it's a 50-50 fight.
Okay.
Right? Would you agree that people say that? I think Terrence Crawford's going to win, but it's a 50-50 fight.
Everybody says it. Yeah, everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Now, if Terrence Crawford can do everything, and you've seen him do everything, and Errol Spence is straight up and down, explain how it's 50-50. That should be one-sided for Terrence Crawford. That lets me know, because again, I think outside the box. That lets me know that everybody says that everybody that's saying, I think Terrence Crawford's going to win, but it's a 50-50 fight, then you don't believe that. You don't believe that. How can you say that Terrence Crawford has all these skills? He can do everything that Errol Spence can't do, but yet it's still a 50-50 fight. That makes zero sense to me. Zero. Either Terrence Crawford has all these skills and he's blah, 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 so he's going to wash Errol Spence and demolish Errol Spence, or he's going to get beat. Or you don't believe what you're saying to me. You don't believe what you're saying to me, because it doesn't. How can you say 50-50? It's a 50-50 fight. No, Errol is going to demolish him. This is not going to be as hard as what people believe. It's not, bro. I see Errol destroying him. Real. I see him destroying him.
I wouldn't be surprised either way. I wouldn't be surprised with anything with this fight, because that's one thing we can all agree on, is it's one of the most exciting, evenly matched, at least on paper. I know you think it's maybe not even, but on paper, it's evenly matched, and that's why everybody's so excited to watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's I don't know what's going to happen. If you put a gun to my head and made me choose, I would and this is fucked up because I'm cool with Derek James, but I maybe lean towards Bud, maybe, but I just don't think I could choose. I don't know. I don't want to make it a prediction either way, because I really don't know.
And that stance right there that you just said is what I'm talking about, because you agreed with me, right? That Terrence Crawford can do it all. You agree with this. You have the same stance that everybody, he could do it all. He could fight all these things.
But so can Spence, though.
Yeah, but nobody says that. Nobody says that. Nobody says Spence can do it all. What people say is Spence is straight up and down. Spence don't have no head. Spence don't do it flat-footed. That's what they say.
Did you see my interview, my last one with Derek James?
I did not, but I'm going to go back and watch it.
Okay. So there's a point in it where we're talking, and he says I said something about Terrence's style, something about Terrence, something about Spence's style, and Derek James goes, "Well, what's his style?" And I was like, "Oh,
exactly."
And I thought about it. I'm like, he has a bunch of different styles depending on who he fights. He's like, exactly. I'm like, huh, okay, that's a good point. We've seen him toe to toe and bang like Ugas. We've seen him, box. We've seen him do whatever he needs to do. So I think they both have. The only thing that Terrence Crawford has that Spence doesn't do is switch hits. That's it. Other than that, they're pretty even, right?
Yeah, except for Errol is bigger. So if you have a big little guy, you have a good little guy and a good big guy, who are you favoring?
I didn't realize he's bigger.
Errol is bigger. Yes, Errol is bigger. Yes,
okay, well,
he's bigger than Bud. He's taller than Bud, and he's just physically bigger than Bud.
Okay, well, yeah, so that's not good. That's not.
No, that's why he calls him little man. That's why he says, "There goes a little guy. There goes a little guy." So this is why I'm saying to people, like, bro, I hear you guys talking to me, and it makes sense, right? What you're saying makes sense until you get to the point where you say it's a 50-50 fight. It is not. You can't tell me that one guy does everything better than another guy, but it's a 50-50 fight. When what makes it 50-50 is this guy does everything better than, and this guy doesn't do everything.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought that Bud did everything better at all. I thought they were very evenly matched. But it's going to be fun. I hope they secure it soon. Because there's still no date.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
supposed to be October 29th. That's what I'm hearing. That's what
um,
I'm hearing. We'll see.
I just found out that Jake Paul is fighting Tommy Fury. They signed it.
Yeah.
How do you see that going?
I'm not. Tommy Fury, in my opinion, is trash.
I thought he was better too.
I think Tommy Fury is a prime knockout for Jake Paul. That's what I think. I think if Jake Paul didn't think that he could beat Tommy Fury, then Jake Paul wouldn't have fought Tommy Fury. Because at the cruiserweight, there is other fighters that Jake Paul can fight. Jake Paul is a pay-per-view fighter. Whoever he fights is going to make the bag. And there is fighters right now at light heavy or not, maybe even light heavy, cruiserweight. They'll fight him. They'll fight him for the bag, and he can fight right now. He can probably fight for a title if he wanted to.
Maybe. I think Jake Paul. Like I was talking to Zab about Jake Paul, right? And Zab told me that he's seen Jake Paul spar, and he goes, "This dude could fight." So when Zab told me that, I trust Zab's opinion very much. So. And I've seen him, leak some videos, and I've seen Jake Paul. And Jake Paul has no experience at all, but he does have some good natural ability. So who knows where it could lead?
But Jake Paul has something that you can't teach. That is one punch knockout power. Can't teach that. And if Tommy Fury gets hit, he's going to sleep. And I truly believe that Jake Paul picked him because of that.
You're probably right. I thought Tommy was better, and then his last fight, I remember being like, "Yeah, I'm like, this is not good."
And that's the reason why Jake Paul signed. I don't have a problem with Jake Paul. I like Jake. I do. I like Jake Paul, man. I think, in my opinion, I think he's good for boxing. I think he's really good.
He is because he brings a whole new kind of demographic to boxing.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he is. I mean, he's kind of a douche, you know what I mean? And he does
he is a douche.
Very douchey. And he's childish, and he does, he's very much a YouTuber. He has a lot of those, like taking Floyd's hat and that kind of shit.
Yeah. That's why he got his eye black.
But you know what? You know what I think was worse than that was homeboy, what's his name? Berlanga biting that dude. What the fuck?
That was disgraceful, man.
What the fuck was that?
It's crazy. You know what? I like Berlanga. I do.
I don't
think he could beat Kevin Newman at all. I think Kevin Newman embarrasses him.
He
embarrasses him.
Berlanga is one of those. He's one of those weird situations where he was knocking everybody out in the first round, and then it just everything stopped. Everything. Like he looks very mediocre now.
Well, that's what happens when your competition level rises, which is another reason why I have Errol Spence destroying Terrence Crawford. That's another reason why, man. That's the reason why when you are dictated by your competition.
I agree. Spence has had better competition. The only argument people sometimes use is that probably the toughest one that they have mutual is Sean Porter.
Mm-hmm.
Bud stopped him, but I had Porter winning that fight.
I had Sean Porter winning too, and people get mad at me when I say that.
No,
Sean Porter was winning that fight, and then he got dropped. He was not hurt because he was beaten on the ground, and his dad stopped the fight.
His dad, right? So a lot of people forget that it's a TKO, but his dad stopped it when he could have clearly continued.
Yeah. My thing when it comes to Sean Porter, again, I'm blunt, I'm honest. Sean Porter said the fight that he wanted was Errol Spence. He said he trained for that fight harder than he trained for everybody else. When it came after Errol Spence, he said he wanted to retire. That's what he said. He said the only reason why he didn't retire is because he didn't know how to tell his dad. That's a fact.
Really?
That's a fact. Yes. I have it on video. So I'm like, so how can you say that when I say you are your level of competition, right? When I say that, how can you say that was the same Sean Porter that fought Errol Spence? It was the same in name only, right? When people want to debate me, I say, okay, no problem. Then explain to me Danny Williams. Explain him to me. And they say, well, who was that? And I say, okay, well, is Mike Tyson a legend? Yeah, he is. Okay, so are you telling me that Mike Tyson was the same Mike Tyson that fought Holyfield, the same one that got knocked out by Danny Williams, because it's still Mike Tyson. Oh no, BF, that's somebody different. No, you cannot have it both ways. I'm telling you, this was a Sean Porter who said he wanted to retire.
Mm-hmm.
He was done. That's who Terrence Crawford fought, and he was still losing.
I hated how his father called him out like that too. That was like, come on, man.
I didn't like that.
That was terrible.
You don't do that, bro. You just don't do that, bro. Especially not to a warrior like Sean. Sean Porter is a warrior. All right, he is a warrior. He has never been knocked out. He has been knocked down before, and he's never been knocked out. He could have continued. He definitely could have continued. That was clear. He was on the ground, beaten on the ground. He could have continued. All right, he didn't do that with Errol Spence. He didn't do that when he got dropped clean by Adrian Broner. He didn't do that. He got dropped clean
in the last round, right?
Yes, he didn't do any of that, man. Any of that. With Terrence Crawford, he was beaten on the ground. He was ready. He was ready, and now they stop it. Like, nope. Like, come on, man. And then you want to say because he wasn't training like you wanted him to train. Well, if he wasn't training like you wanted him to train, why did you allow the fight to happen in the first place?
I agree, and they showed some clips on like 24/7 or whatever their version of that is called, and I don't know if you saw it, but at one point, Porter's sparring, and Kenny just jumps in and starts like, "What are you doing?" and starts just criticizing him, and you're not trying. But so it was like building up. So Kenny Porter seemed like he had a real big ego, and it was you know what I mean. It was more about his ego, not his son.
Yes, this was something totally different. This was I just disagree with how to win. I think this was bad for Sean Porter's legacy. I think it was bad. I think if Sean Porter was going to get knocked out with the wars and the fights he's fought everybody, he deserved to be knocked out. He deserved that. Yeah. Right. And for the fact that didn't happen, I look at this and I just, man, I think that tainted Sean's legacy a little bit because he worked his career to earn that, right? If you're gonna beat me and knock me out, then you knock me out. Do that, right? But you got to give me that right. I earned that right, man. I fought Keith Thurman. I fought Danny Garcia. I fought Paulie Malignaggi. I fought Adrian Broner. I fought all these guys, man. I fought all these guys. I've earned my right. I fought Kell Brook. I've earned my right. I deserve to go out on my shield. That going out like that, stopping the fight, man. When I'm winning. And they even told Bud in the corner, "Hey, you're losing this fight."
He was like, "How?"
Yeah, and he's like, "How? You were down, bro. You were down. You were losing." Which is another reason why I have Errol demolishing this man.
Okay, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Probably the most stacked division is like that 130 to 140 range, right? It's three divisions, but.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, 130, 140.
Because they could all fight each other. Like, you know what I mean? All those guys are going to go up or down.
Yes.
Who do you have at the top of that?
I do not think any fighter from 140 and down beats Tank Davis or Devin Haney. I think that fight right there is the biggest fight from 140 and down. I do not believe anybody beats them.
Shakur?
I do not believe it. And I'm from Jersey. I love Shakur. Love Shakur. My issue with Shakur that I don't like, right? My issue that troubles me when it comes to a Tank and a Devin is he's flat-footed, but not flat-footed. He fights flat-footed, but he doesn't have to be, right? He's another one that can do it all. But if you watch Shakur, and I love him, he's in my top 10 pound for pound. I love Shakur. But when you watch him, it's like he relies a lot more on the upper body movement versus the full movement, right? It's sort of how we talked about earlier, the pretty boy versus the money May.
Mm-hmm.
The pretty boy used all of it. He used the upper body as well as the foot, as well as the feet, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying Shakur can't do it, but I'm saying a lot of people nowadays use the money May, which is, it's a different style, man. It's more defensive. With Shakur, he likes to keep you in the range. He'll find that range, the distance between you and him and his punch, and he'll stay there, right? So you move forward, he moves back. You move back, he moves forward. Whatever that distance is, I believe he's one of the best in maintaining that range and distance. So whatever that is, he's going to stay there. The problem I have when it comes to Tank is Tank will explosively close that gap. Explosively close it, right? So he'll keep that gap there, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's in there. If he explosively closed that gap, and you are used to, and again, this is no disrespect to Shakur. I love Shakur. All right, I think Shakur is the goods. But if you are not used to when someone's going to explosively close that gap, if you can't explosively keep your distance, and you just want to more so use your lean back, then he's going to clip you. And I believe that there is two fighters right now in the sport of boxing who have knockout power and a close third. That is Deontay Wilder and Tank Davis. Because anybody, if I hit you, and you know this as a boxer, right? A knockout is about where I hit you. If I hit you right, I could be a feather-fisted puncher, but if I hit you right, it's going to do some damage on you. And specifically, if I hit you a couple of times in the right spot, I'm going to knock you out.
Or not seeing the punch. That's a big one.
Or not seeing the punch, right? If I don't see that punch and I landed on you, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill, right? But a fighter with actual knockout power, it don't matter if you see it or not. If I hit you, I'm going to hurt you badly, right? That's Deontay Wilder and that's Tank Davis.
I thought for the longest that Tank Davis kind of reminded me of Andre Berto, where he's stocky, he's short, and as he moves up, his height's going to be a problem. But he beat some tall guys. It hasn't been yet, because he's how tall is he? Like 5'4"? I mean,
he's like 5'4", 5'5".
Yeah, he's short, and as he's moving up in weight, I thought like Barrios was actually beating him, right, until he got caught.
I think Barrios was out jabbing him. I really don't think he was beating him. I just think he was out jabbing him.
Barrios was also freakishly tall, right, for that weight class.
Yeah, he was tall for a 140 guy, right? He was tall for a 140 guy, but I wouldn't say that he was like unnaturally tall. I believe that Tank Davis could campaign at 147. I believe that. I think he could campaign at 147, and I truly believe he would stop Keith Thurman. I think that's a great fight for Tank at 147. I think Tank at 147 is a problem because his height is going to actually help him, right? His height and explosiveness, because a lot of people that's a short guy right there. It's trying to get to his body. You're going to have to lean abnormally to try to do body shots, which is going to be good for him, right? Because all he's got to do is protect his head. Because most people are not going to want to. They're not going to want to put themselves in the danger to go to the body with Tank. They'll just be up top, right? So all he's got to worry about more so is worrying about the high guard or just head movement. And I know people are not going to agree. They're not going to agree. I've never cared what people agree with. I'm telling you what I see. Right. And it's sort of the same thing with Pitbull Cruz. Pitbull Cruz was shorter than Tank Davis.
Yeah.
Right. So Tank Davis was not really going to the body that much because he was putting himself in a position to get hit, which is why he was catching and why he injured his hand, because he was going more to the head. It'll be the same thing for Tank at welterweight. It'll just be the simple fact that he's got more power, more pop.
Do you think Ryan Garcia?
Trash.
You don't think he could ever, because we don't know what he has yet,
Trash.
Ryan Garcia is one of those guys that, like, I don't know. He has great skill, but he's also showed some weaknesses, but he's never fought a high-level competition.
Ryan Garcia is trash to me, man.
Yeah,
Ryan Garcia is a 100% clout chaser. That's what he is to me. Ryan Garcia does not, he fights like a giraffe. He fights straight up and down. That's the reason why he gets clipped, because he fights straight up and down. Now, he's got pop. Don't get it wrong. He's got pop. But he fights straight up and down. Like, there's no changing of the levels, right? There's no changing down, stabbing to the body. He fights straight up and down. He moves in the straight way. And when he punches it, he keeps his head right on the line. You can't keep your head straight on the line, man. You can't do it. You're going to get clipped. That's the reason why he got dropped by Luke Skywalker. That's the reason, bro. And it's going to happen. Tank Davis will murder this man. That fight does not go the distance. He gets stopped badly. Stopped.
I probably would agree with you. But one thing I learned is you never fucking know. You know what I mean? but we'll find out. So, what about Loma? You think Loma plays any role in this division anymore?
I think Loma is past his time. I think the time for Loma, and here's my issue with Lomachenko. I think Lomachenko is a good fighter, but I think Lomachenko has the machine behind him, so to speak, right? Lomachenko, what they say is he's too small for the weight class that he's in. That's what they'll keep telling you. They always say, well, Lomachenko's small. He's small. He's small. He's a small guy. So, this is a great thing for him. It's towards his legacy, such a great thing. But, he's a small guy fighting in his division. My counter, because again, BFTB thinks outside the box. If you're such a small guy, then why aren't you undisputed at 126? Why don't you just do that? Why don't you just be undisputed at 130?
Right.
Why are you trying to go to a weight class that is too big for you to be undisputed? That makes absolutely no sense. Tank Davis fights at 135 too. 132. You can fight him at 130 if that's the case. If that's the big, Shakur's at 130. Why are you going to a weight class where you're too big? We're too small to try to get undisputed. It makes absolutely no sense. No sense at all. It makes no sense. Stay at 130, 126, where you're close to your natural weight class. You have your natural. Bro, why don't you fight a Newey? Cool Boy Steph. Fight them in that right there. That is around your natural weight class, and you can become undisputed if you can beat them. But I think, like I told you earlier, Father Time is undefeated. I think Lomachenko he's towards the end of his career. I think at this particular moment, he is Mike Tyson who fought Danny Williams. He is a name. If you come on, man. I wouldn't say he's there yet to the Mike Tyson, Danny Williams, but he's there. He's almost there.
I would agree with you, but that last fight he'd had against that Asian dude, he beat the shit out of that dude. He looked good.
Because Nakatani is garbage. Nakatani is.
Teofimo had problems with him, though.
Say again?
Teofimo had some problems with him.
Yeah, because why? Because Teofimo was trying to knock him out. That's why. And you as a boxer know this. You don't go looking for the knockout. You let the knockout happen. If you go looking for the knockout, now your mindset is, I need to knock this man out, so you're taking away from your skill set.
I was always very annoyed at people putting Loma in the top 10 putting him number 1 pound for pound when he'd had like 7 fights. I'm like, you can't.
Pathetic. With a loss. With a loss.
It's crazy, right, with a loss. But then there was an excuse, well, that was only his second fight for a world title. Yeah,
it was your second fight in boxing. Orlando Salido beat him. Yeah, Salido beat this man, and he never gave him a rematch. Like, bro, you lost. Why don't you give him a rematch? You lost. And this is my take. This is my issue with Loma. You beat Gary Russell, right? You got the WBO belt. Gary Russell beats Johnny Gonzalez, wins the WBC. If you wanted undisputed, why didn't you rematch him?
Yeah.
You already beat the man.
Yeah.
Rematch him and get the belt if undisputed is such a thing for you. But yet you move to a weight class out of that weight class at a bigger weight class where you're too small to become undisputed. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, man. It's a stacked division. So let's move up to 47. That division. Who do you have? Do you have Boots top? Who do you think? Versus Errol Spence?
I think Errol Spence and Terrence. I think Terrence Crawford's going to retire. I do not think Terrence Crawford's fighting after this fight. I think after Errol Spence beats him, he's done in boxing. I truly believe that. He has nothing more to prove. He's daring to be great. That's what they're going to say. Daring to be great by trying to become undisputed in 2 weight classes. When you lose, he's finished. You don't need the money. You don't need anything. He's done. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He can chill with his beautiful family, his beautiful babies, his beautiful wife. He can live life, be a trainer or whatever the case may be. I think Errol Spence he's got 1 fight he's done. After he beats Bud, he's going to 54. That's a whole different conversation. I think it is Jerron Boots Ennis. I think Jerron Boots, and I like Virgil Ortiz, but I think Virgil Ortiz is doing what Terrence Crawford did. Right? You're going the WBO route, the easy route, because that's what it is. You're going the WBO route. You're fighting Michael McKinson. This guy has 2 knockouts in 26 fights. You have 2 knockouts in 26 fights. By accident, you can knock somebody out. But this is who he's fighting. Virgil Ortiz is fighting Michael McKinson with 2 knockouts, right? And Michael McKinson is ranked number 5 in the WBO. Virgil was ranked number 1. Jerron Boots Ennis is ranked number 2. In the WBC, it's Virgil Ortiz 1, Boots 2. In the IBF, it's Virgil Ortiz 1 and it's Boots 1 and Virgil Ortiz is like 4 or something like that, 5. But they're both ranked respectively 1 and 2 just about every sanctioned body.
Right.
Yet Virgil Ortiz is fighting McKinson. You can't, bro. I'm telling you, this is the same type of thing when Terrence Crawford could have moved up and fought Errol Spence as his mandatory, which nobody wants to talk about. He was an undisputed champion. You know this like I knew this. That's the reason why Mikey Garcia was able to get that fight with Errol Spence, because he was an IBF champion.
Right.
So he would have been in their IBF rankings. Well, Terrence Crawford, as an undisputed champion, was the IBF champion. Right. So you could have been the mandatory for Errol Spence, but you didn't. So I think it's going to be the exact same route. Not only that, he could have not only could have been the mandatory for Errol Spence, he could have been the mandatory for the WBC strap too against Danny Garcia, because Danny was number 1 and Sean Porter was number 2. So if he would have said, I want to be the mandatory for the WBC, then him and Danny would have fought for that vacant belt instead of Danny and Porter.
Right.
But nobody wants to talk about that either. They just want to say, oh, Errol's ducking Bud. Errol could have fought him. Errol, he got a bet. He didn't. This is why I tell everybody, man. Terrence Crawford it didn't matter what EJ said at all. And no, it's not like Jeff Horn didn't tell Terrence Crawford to go get a belt.
Right.
No, you moved up and I became your mandatory. And I fought you straight away. You could have did the exact same thing with Errol Spence or Danny Garcia. Not Keith Thurman, because we all know that the WBA Super doesn't have a mandatory, but you could have did that for Errol Spence or Danny Garcia.
Is Thurman fighting Boots? Is that official?
That's what I heard. That's just what I heard. I heard that the holdup is the WBA, because what I was told is he is the winner of this fight is going to be the WBC Mando, the WBO Mando, and the IBF Mando. They're trying to make the winner of this fight the mandatory for all 4 belts.
If I was Keith Thurman's advisor, I would tell him to stay very far away from this fight. Not just because Boots seems like such an extraordinary 1 in a million fighter, but what does Thurman have to gain by fighting?
Absolutely nothing.
What the fuck's he doing?
I think I respect him for taking it. I do. I respect him for taking it, but I have Jerron Boots Ennis in my top 5 pound for pound. I think Jerron Boots Ennis is he is as close to a perfect fighter since Roy Jones.
I agree. I wouldn't put him in my top 5 because for me, I'm very big on resume, and his resume is not there yet. But the eyeball test, yes, he looks. I was big on him a couple years ago. I remember seeing him, and I'm like, "What the fuck is this?" You know what
Phenomenal.
I mean? Yeah, I was like, "Wow." And even the way he carries himself, man, I like everything about him.
Yes, I do. I like I know it's a whole different conversation with the pound for pound thing, but it's like people have different things for their pound for pound, and I'm okay with everybody's thing as long as you can explain it. I'll rock up with your pound for pound. It's when people just like ESPN's pound for pound list, you can't even explain this.
Yeah, that's goofy.
Like, how do you have Vasil Lomachenko on there at one? He's a 135 pounder, but no Devin Haney, who is the undisputed champion at 135. That is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, you have Tyson Fury on there, who said he retired, and the only reason why he's on there is because he beat Wilder. But you never had Wilder on there. So how does that make sense, bro? That makes no sense to me. None. You have Canelo Alvarez as top 4, but you have Bivol as number 9 or not even on there, or number 10. But I beat you.
Do you think the loss to Bivol should drop Canelo's ranking into pound for pound list?
Absolutely. He's not on mine.
No.
Canelo's not on my list at all. I do not put drug cheats on my list.
Oh, because of the steroids?
And I tell everybody this. I would have Canelo on my pound for pound list right now. Right now. He'd be on my list. If and only if, because everybody makes mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So nobody on earth in the planet is perfect. You made a mistake. You're on the clenbuterol. You're off the clenbuterol now. They raised the levels for him. So we have no idea, and they never told the world what the level is they raised it to.
So, Roy talked to me about, he got busted once for steroids. I don't know if you know that.
Yes,
And I didn't even know that until, he told me about it. And what he said, and of course I believe him, but I kind of believe it in general. He said that he was like, yo, I didn't know I could get popped dirty for taking something at the GNC that I just grabbed off the shelf. I had no idea. Now, you can say you should know, blah, 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 but I actually believed him. I did.
I would. There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with believing. Bro, listen, I will believe anybody until you show me you're a liar.
right.
Right? Like Maya Angelou said, man, you tell me who you are, I'll believe you.
To me, it's about repeat offenders too. Everybody makes a
Absolutely.
mistake. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like I thought Big Baby Miller could have been a great heavyweight. I don't know what the fuck
I
he's
think
doing.
so too. I
But
think I wish him well. And I hope he's successful. I think he fought today, if I'm not mistaken.
oh
Either
yeah, I
today or
heard that.
tomorrow. One or two. I hope he wins. I didn't watch it, but I mean, I hope he wins. I hope he's
Yeah,
successful.
and like
I
Saudi
think
Arabia or something, right?
good. Yeah, I think he's good for boxing, man. I think he'd be good for the heavyweights. I really do. I would love to see Big Baby in there with Joe Joyce or someone like that. Someone who both their motors, and that's what Jarrell Big Baby Miller has, is a motor, right? He's really not punching power, but a motor. Like someone with that motor and the Juggernaut's motor, Joe Joyce, that's a fun fight. I would love to see stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But back to that one thing about Canelo, man, like he made a mistake, right? And if the clenbuterol levels were the same they were when he made the mistake, and he never popped dirty again, then I'm fine with him. He'd be on my pound for pound list. He wouldn't
Right.
be number one, but he'd be on my list, right? But the simple fact is, you pop dirty for clenbuterol, and then they raise the levels of clenbuterol that you can have in your system. So we have no idea how much clenbuterol he has in the system at any given time. Can you imagine if they did that for Roy Jones?
What
What
does clenbuterol do exactly?
So clenbuterol is like a fat burner, and it helps you out with your breathing, right? So it's one of those things where if you get gassed, then it helps you in that category. So now you're not gassed. Well, we saw when Canelo fought Golovkin in the first fight, and with Floyd. Matter of fact, with anybody that's going to do something like, he likes to lean on the ropes, and they say he's baiting him in. He's not baiting him in. He's taking a break. He's taking a break. Well, if you take some type of additive or sedative or whatever supplement that's going to help you not take a break, well, then you're going to look better. That's common sense. That's common sense, and that's what happened with Canelo Alvarez. And then they raised the level, bro. I don't respect that. I don't respect that at all. That's like telling me, oh, listen, you can have a little bit of nandrolone in the system. You're dirty for nandrolone, but we're going to raise the levels of nandrolone in your system. I'll give you even worse. It's like having coke in your system and then raising the level of cocaine you can have in your system. And then I'm supposed to say, oh, well, he had legal amounts. No, you should have no amounts. No amounts. None. Canelo Alvarez is one of the highest paid boxers in the world. I put every bit of money I'll ever make that he can hire a proper dietitian and a cook to make sure that he never pops dirty for anything.
Yeah. I don't know what's gonna happen with him. I thought, he shouldn't have fought Bivol, but he beat Kovalev, and I think that gassed him up. So he decided to, go even bigger.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up by talking about the 175-pound division, 168/175-pound division.
Yes.
Me personally, not only because I've interviewed him, but I love David Benavidez. I think he's a fucking beast. I don't know much about this Beterbiev guy. I've only seen him fight a couple times. What's your take on that division? Who do you think is going to come out on top?
I think David Benavidez, I need to see him lose to believe he will lose. I used to say, nah, man, because I see him drop by a jab. I've seen these type of things. I'm big on David Benavidez, but I'm also big on facts. I tell you, I'm blunt. David Benavidez had an opportunity to fight Artur Beterbiev. The WBC was going to order that fight if he moved to 175. He chose not to. That's a fact. Okay. So you're a guy who had a problem making weight at 68. You were offered a title shot against Artur Beterbiev. You offered that, and you turned it down. to stay at 68 where you had a problem making weight. That's my issue. And again, I stand firm on my square. I need to see him lose to believe it. I do not believe he will lose. That man's a killer.
So you're saying that you think he's apprehensive to fight Beterbiev?
Yes, because Beterbiev is a killer as well. And Beterbiev has better feet. David Benavidez is more of a flat-footed fighter, sort of in the same realm as a Shakur. I think Shakur is more totally skilled than Benavidez, of course, but I'm speaking more of the feet, right? Benavidez is going to walk straight at you. I'm going right at you. I'm going to bludgeon you. I got fast hands. I'm going to let my hands go. I'm going right at you, right? You cannot do that with someone that if you come at me and what I'm hitting you with is going to stop you from coming at me. Artur Beterbiev has rockets. Like I told you, in my opinion, there's two fighters that have knockout power. And then a close third. And the close third is Artur Beterbiev.
To so hit you Tank and Deontay.
Yes.
So, you know who I was introduced to just recently, not personally, but saw him fight, was David Morrell. That boy could fight. He's going to be a problem.
David Morrell, I think David Morrell got next. He's very, very. His last fight was it sort of tainted it for me a little bit.
Why?
His last one, yeah, he didn't look like David Morrell. Everybody has a bad fight, right? It could not be your night that night. Everybody has a bad night, and he was successful on a bad night. But you cannot have a bad night against David Benavidez. He's going to stop you. You cannot have a bad night. You're not going to be successful with a bad night against Benavidez. I think David Benavidez versus David Morrell is an amazing fight. I think David Morrell only got like 7 or 8 fights. But I still think it's an amazing fight still.
Morrell is he was a Cuban fighter, right? So he probably
he got like 200 amateurs, 300
more.
Amateurs.
Yeah, those guys. Yeah. I mean, my podcast partner Jeremy had about 300 amateur fights. That's too much. I feel like you don't need that. That's just too much, man. Turn pro. It's a lot of fucking. They're finding out a lot of things now about brain trauma and CTE and all this stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like when I was coming up in Kevin Rooney's camp, we wouldn't wear headgear to spar. They just wouldn't. But and the thing was, they said they would make you. Kevin, I was like, oh, we're wearing headgear. He goes, nah, I mean, you can. I mean, only pussies do it. But that's the quote. Only pussies do it. You can. So, of course, the ego, I'm like, I ain't wearing no headgear.
Yeah.
And we were sparring every day. Like, it was the amount of, people don't realize that the mileage comes primarily from sparring, not even from fights.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
You spar more.
And believe it or not, and there's some people who argue this, but not many do. Those bigger gloves, that's more concussive. It's simple physics. You're adding more weight to something, and you're getting hit in the head with it.
Yes.
The headgear does absorb a little, but they spar in 18 or 20 ounce gloves. That's almost double the size of a fight glove. That's a lot of weight, and I've been hit with both. You know what I mean? And I've thrown both, and sparring gloves feel like a douche, whereas a pro glove feels like a douche, like a quick, it's more like a little rock hitting you as opposed to a cinder block hitting you.
Yep, a thud versus something sharp popping. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the problem there. But do you think Bivol can hold his own with Beterbiev or Benavidez or any of those guys?
I think Bivol can absolutely hold his own, but Bivol cannot beat Beterbiev. And I think the better fight for Bivol is actually Benavidez. I think Benavidez, I believe Benavidez will beat Bivol because I believe Benavidez will be too active for Bivol. But that's not a tough, an easy fight for either one of them because Bivol can actually box and he can control range and he's not stupid enough to try to overcommit, right? Because he didn't overcommit with Canelo. So he's not stupid enough to do that he's not stupid enough to overcommit with Benavidez where he will get beat up if he does that. Right. But the problem is Beterbiev will force that on him, which is why I think Beterbiev will beat him because he will force that on him. And you saw when Canelo forced the action, he was headhunting, He wasn't going to the body like he was, and which is one of the reasons why he lost, because all he's doing headhunting and punching shoulders and elbow and punching like trying to brutalize him to make him drop his guard.
Yeah, which didn't work.
Didn't work. But Better BF is a different animal. So I think Bivol versus Benavidez is the fight if Bivol's going to do that. Bivol versus Better BF is the fight that should happen because it would be for undisputed. It should happen. But I believe the fight that's more winnable for Bivol is Benavidez.
Right. Okay. Well, you know, man, there's a lot of great fights. We've been spoiled in boxing. The past 2 months has been a good fight almost every Saturday, right?
Yep.
And I don't know who's fighting this Saturday.
Who is fighting this Saturday? Man, I don't know.
It might not be anybody. I don't know.
I don't think it's anybody big.
Yeah, maybe not. But it's the first week.
Jarrell is fighting today or tomorrow. But that's all I knew.
Look, man, it was great talking to you. I want to do it again. I like talking to people who know boxing. So yeah, thanks for coming on, and we'll
man, I appreciate it, man. Absolutely honored to be on this podcast, bro, man. I like I said, I watch you all the time, man.
Thank you.
I found out about you like maybe a month or so, 2 months ago from Smoke. Okay. And I've watched every single. I've been like binge watching, bro. I'm really impressed with what you do. I'm appreciative to be on here, man. I really don't go other places because people are corny. They're cornballs to me, right? And they're stupid and whack with what they try to put out, and I'm gonna end up cussing them the hell out, right? But from what I've seen that you do, man, and now that I'm here, I'm grateful, bro. I'm grateful.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I really do, and we'll do it again. And let me know if you ever want me and Jeremy, or just me to come on your platform. We're down.
Absolutely, bro. I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man. Good talking. Peace.
You as well, brother. Peace.
All right.